Fantastic. It says we're live.
Right.
We do the normal.
Sweet.
Are
we live?
There's got to be a better way. Every week I'm going to start like this. Okay. So, hello everyone.
Hello there.
So we've got, in case you don't recognise some faces here, I'm Daniel from Devon Sons Guitars in the UK, and we've got Dave from Footstep Guitars, also in the UK.
Yeah.
And then over in America, there's Mark Gutierrez, and Jesse from Jaybird Guitars.
Hi there.
How's it going?
So we thought we'd have a theme for today, because we haven't had Dave on for a while, and Dave has been, if anyone follows his Instagram, and I'll share some images from it soon, has been building acoustic guitars. But originally, when we first started speaking to you, Dave, I don't think you built any acoustic guitars way back.
No, it was just a solid block.
So where are you at now? How many have you actually built?
Right, okay. So I've got two sort of acoustic stroke electric guitars, which I've made in an acoustic style, with ribs that have been bent. I've got a bass guitar, which I sort of semi-made based on a design that Scott came up with from Bonehead, actually, one of his beautiful two-tone wood designs. And I'm working on a nylon classical guitar at the moment. So that's where I am. But like I was just talking to Jesse, and Jesse was saying he's repaired a couple of acoustics. Before I started it, I had a go at repairing a couple. A friend in the village had got an old parlour guitar, which had been left in the garage and was all broken. The headstock was broken. The thing rattled like nobody's business. And so I had a go at repairing that. And I had a classical guitar that my parents had bought me about 50 years ago, and it had seen better days. So I had a go at repairing that, and that involved stripping the whole lot down, taking the top off, dealing with all the ribs and everything in there and the braces. And so it sort of gave me a bit of confidence to actually try and have a go and build one myself. And we had a chat with Gabrielle Retti, didn't we, Gabby? And I mean, watching her YouTube videos, I mean, it's you just think she makes it look so easy. You just think, gosh, I've got to have a go at doing something like that. But yeah, I started off, and I wanted to sort of show these guitars. I started off with the Great Guitar Build Off 2021. I thought, okay, let's have a go at an acoustic build. And yeah, Daniel, I don't know if you've got a picture of that one on this. It's the one. It's the Kingfisher guitar. It's this guitar here. This guitar here, which yeah, looks like a hollow body guitar, and it's made in the same way as you'd make an acoustic guitar, in that these are very thin ribs. So it's right up at the top there. He says
right at the top.
Right at the top, yeah, the Kingfisher guitar, yeah. So the thing about this guitar, and I sort of posed a question there, is that yeah, it's hollow, and if you click onto that next image, you'll see how it's constructed inside. And I made a big mistake with this guitar. I put it all together and I thought, oh gosh, this is going to sound really good, and actually, it sounds awful as an acoustic guitar. I don't know whether you can hear that.
So can you say this? Because I can hear it and it doesn't sound awful, but I'm not in the room with you. So why does it sound
it's awful? Very tinny indeed. And of course, the reason, and this is one of these things that I learned along the way, was if you notice on that picture there, the top of the guitar is actually resting on all of that wood that's in there. Now, there are pickups hidden in this guitar. So if I switch them on, I think hopefully you might get a different sound. Nice. So it works with the pickups, but it doesn't work as an acoustic guitar. And the reason simply is the top is fixed down. The top is glued down to all of those pieces of wood in the middle there. It doesn't vibrate, so you just don't get any tone from it. So
I've got. Can I interrupt there with a
yeah,
question? So I've got an electric bass,
yeah,
and I know you can get the same with guitars as well, where it's semi-hollow. So what's
right,
happening is it's got a big chambered part with an F hole in it,
yeah,
and it definitely doesn't sound like an acoustic guitar. But when I'm playing it, one of the great things about it is I can play it without an amp,
yeah.
and it resonates enough that there's a good sound there.
You are going to get some sound from it, and again, you know, I get more sound out of this than I would perhaps a hollow body, sorry, a solid body guitar. But it's because the top is fixed and it's not moving.
Right.
I'm not getting the sound. When I built this one, this is the Fireflower. If you've got that one on there, now if I play this one, I don't know if you can hear that, but I'm getting a much nicer tone. And I mean, I was really, I didn't expect it, having built that first one and then building this one. Yeah, I mean, if you click onto the next picture, you'll see there was nothing on the holding onto this top. It was just purely those braces on the back there. There are some braces underneath the top, but they're not fixed to anything else. So basically that gave me the vibration that you need. And I was really impressed with the tone that comes out of this thing. It's got a bridge pickup on it as well. So if I need to get a bit rocky, I can plug it in. But it's great to pick up and play. And I think that was the most important thing that I've sort of learned by doing this, that you've got to keep that top as free as possible. And with the classical one that I'm building now, which is the thing with the dolphin on, I don't know if you've got one of there. I've actually got it in here with me. I've really taken a lot of time to make sure there is nothing touching the top that doesn't need to touch the top.
And on that one, Dave, on the last one we just saw, was the tailpiece floating, or is it touching the top?
The tailpiece is actually, yeah, it's actually floating.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that. Can you, if I could turn it around a bit. Yeah, it just floats above the top.
Nice.
It's anchored right at the end, but otherwise it floats over the top. This bridge is fixed down, but on the acoustic one I'm building, I'm going to have a floating bridge so that it isn't. So again, yeah. So I mean, the only point of contact really is here, where there's a little bit of wood just underneath that, but all of this can vibrate, and I think that's what gives it the tone.
And one more question about that, Dave. So the bridge on that one, yeah. I noticed it was quite wide. Do you want to have more surface area for a bridge like that, so it actually resonates the top?
That's a good question. That is a very good question. This was just purely the aesthetics, to be perfectly frank with you. So I'm not sure whether a smaller bridge would actually make a difference.
I can't quite see the bridge. Is it just a tune-o-matic kind of bridge put into?
What it is, it's a homemade bridge, but the pieces in the middle are from an old tune-o-matic bridge.
Right.
But everything else it's actually made of 8 pieces. It took ages to make.
It kind of looks as though the tune-o-matic is like inset or inlaid into that 8-piece.
Yeah. So in actual fact, what we got here, we've got 2 pieces of aluminium front and back, which are then stuck into a piece of wood there. The wood goes up and down. There's some Allen keys on each end. And then you've got the adjustments there for the tune-o-matic thing for the intonation. So yeah, it was taking an old tune-o-matic bridge, taking those string pieces out, and then building everything else around it, basically.
And what I remember from the first guitar you showed us was that was a homemade bridge as well, because I remember watching that in the Great Guitar Build-Off. Yeah,
that's complete. Homemade thing, that one, and all that is a piece of fret wire, and underneath this is the piezo pickup, and there's a couple of screws on each side which just I can raise and lower it, But this bridge actually fits onto a slot, so it can move backwards and forwards. So the whole thing will move if I need to. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the most important things with guitars, in my opinion, is being able to adjust that position of the bridge to get the intonation right. There's nothing more frustrating if you can't do that. But I mean, with this new classical guitar, what I've gone for, I'm using a Zebrano top. Now, everybody's told me, whatever you do, don't use Zebrano as the top because it's not strong enough. You can't get it thin enough. So what I've done with it is I've taken it to 2 mil because I want it to vibrate, and the thinner it is, the more it's going to vibrate. But sorry, Daniel, if you shoot back to the picture, what I've done, I've stuck extra braces inside. So you've got these 2 bowed braces, and the idea here is that those braces take the pressure of the strings. Yeah, so the top shouldn't be taking any pressure from the strings at all. So that should be free to vibrate. Those 2 bowed things stop that pulling together, and yeah, I'm hoping that that's going to give a nice tone.
And is it another floating tailpiece there?
The tailpiece, yeah, is attached to the very back of the guitar. So there is a post right at the very end of the guitar. There's a post.
Yeah.
You can see it, yeah. So the bridge is just attached to that, but then again, it lifts up. Sorry, the tailpiece, I should say, that sort of lifts up, and the bridge is going to be a floating bridge. I'm probably going to use a couple of magnets to sort of try and stop it falling off if you've got no strings, but it will allow me to move it back and forth. And in order to be able to do that, I've got to have quite a steep break angle because the bridge needs to be fairly high. The strings have got to really push down on that bridge, A, to hold it in place, and B, to get that tone going through. Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, this guitar is a bit of an experiment, I'll be honest with you. It'd be interesting to see once I've put it all together how the thing works. But I'm thinking, based on my experience with this one and the tone that I got from it, that I'm going to get a reasonable tone with it. But go on.
I have some questions. Number one is, if everyone told you not to use Zebrano, why did you use Zebrano?
Because I had it. I had this beautiful piece of Zebrano. I mean, Daniel, you know, I'm use what you got guy. I'll buy some pieces of wood from. I usually buy it from a place down in Guildford called what's it called now? Surrey Timbers. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but they're massive store in the UK, and they have a really nice selection of woods. They're not tone woods, they're just hardwoods, and you know, I just love going there, picking out a selection of them, and I bring them back, and then, you know, I worry about whether it's a tone wood or not after the effect. You know, but yeah, I just like the idea of the Zebrano. It went really nicely. I'd love to know what he's cooking now, I tell you.
I love it. I love this new format.
This is great. I love it.
That is really...
Let's do it every week. Hey, Dave, before I forget, so the experimental construction with those 2 bars, I'm really intrigued. Have you put this together yet? Have you tested this guitar out, or is it almost complete?
It's almost complete. I'm nearly there. I've got the neck done. I've got the frets in now. So the next step is to string it up and just see what happens.
Interesting.
Before I do anything else at this.
You know, it was funny because a while back, several years ago, I was looking at, I was on this forum, and it was for like CAD designers who were designing acoustic guitars in 3D. And someone had come up with an experimental design. It wasn't real. It was all just, you know, it was all in CAD, of a double top acoustic, where, much like you said, the actual strain of the strings and the tension was on the lower top, and the top one was free to float. Free to vibrate, and then the bridge and the strings went through both, and the bridge was on a suspension system, so the bridge would move too to pull the strings. And so you had this, it was almost like, not a banjo, that's the wrong word, but the top floating top was just really just suspended, and the whole thing would vibrate because there was zero tension on it. Nothing, not even the bridge. The bridge was on the lower top.
So were there holes on that middle layer?
There was a space in between the both layers, and there was a space around where the ribs of the guitar would be. So it was space there and space in between, air in between the two tops. So it was completely free floating.
But were the holes going through to the underside? So there was a bigger chamber.
Yeah, there was a bigger chamber.
Yeah, I understand.
So, Dave, on those like kind of bowed braces, are those floating kind of like in between the top and the back?
Yeah, they're glued into those blocks at each end, but otherwise they don't touch anything in between, if you like. And the reason they're bowed is because I didn't want you to look at those when you look through the sound hole. I wanted to try and avoid those if I could. That was the idea.
With the bend in them, is the bend causing pressure on the head block and the tail block?
Yeah, those braces are laminated. They're made out of about 3 pieces of hardwood, which I bent round a former, glued them, bent them round, and then that was it. But they're very strong. You can't really squeeze them in, but they don't apply too much pressure pushing outwards. It's only if you try and squash them back, if you know what I mean. So,
gotcha. Guys, I'm gonna have to jump off of here. My battery's just about dead.
Okay. Enjoy your dinner.
I'm going to. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, we've lost you. You're muted.
I'm muted because my 3D printer's printing.
Oh, sorry.
Can you hear it? It's really noisy, but okay. The mic's doing its job. It's cutting out the background noise.
Yeah.
I was just about to say Jesse was on because he wanted to ask Dave some questions because Jesse's about to build or going to do some acoustic building. But if anyone is watching and you've got questions for Dave, just leave them in the comments or head over to his Instagram and leave questions there.
Yeah, you can always ask me questions, and I mean, it is new to me, so I'll give you my best advice. But So
is that bowed bracing something you've seen before?
No, I thought I was just thinking, what could I do to strengthen it? And my initial, if you go, I don't know if you go back to one of my previous guitars, like this Firefly thing here, you'll notice. Inside the body, let's go. Oops. Yeah, can you see what I've done in the past is put a piece of wood, and that's probably, I don't know, 1/2 inch square piece going from the tail up to the neck, and so I've used that sort of technique to, and basically I build the block. I make the block, that strip of wood, and the bit where the neck attaches first, and then slot that into the body and glue it in. So there is a sort of a rigid piece of wood between the back, the tail and the neck. I didn't want to do that with this Dolphin guitar because I didn't want you to be able to see the braces inside. Hence the reason for doing this bowed bit. And
Neil's just is that because of how brittle Zebrano is?
I presume it is. Yes, somebody's made a comment about that. Yeah, it was Garby who said to me, Dave, you could have problems with Zebrano because it could easily break, and so yeah. In a way, that was a challenge. I mean, one of the reasons for the Zebrano was it just went with the theme. In fact, it inspired the theme of the Dolphin, the whole thing. So I thought once I'd gone with it, I'd got to stick with it.
If anyone doesn't know, there's a link in the description of this, the archive, and we've got people like Garby on talking about building acoustic guitars. And there's a few other ones, and one of them was called Willis, and he was his one went up recently on the archive, and he was fascinating because he built bluegrass guitars, and he was talking about everything, all the choices of the wood, the thickness of the wood, the splines inside the braces, how thin they need to be, and changing them to get all these different tones in it all, and how you test as you go along. I was wondering with you, like the one you just showed us, the Firefly one, did you just put the braces in and then that was it? Or did you do some adjusting of the braces once they were on to see how that affected the sound?
Okay, I'm going to try and pretend now I know what I'm on about, but basically there's this idea of voicing the top, and the idea is that you put your braces in, you trim them down, and then you tap it by your ear until you can hear some tones. And okay, I thought, yeah, let's give it a go. Now, the way the bracing on the bracing on the classical guitar I've got is actually like a fan bracing, and the idea behind that is that the sound waves fan out from the bridge, and I think it is a technique that some classical guitar builders use. But there was no doubt about it that once I did that, and once I trimmed those bracings down, you definitely got a tone when you hit the top. It wasn't a dead sound. It was definitely a deep sort of ring. So I'm hoping that that's going to give me a nice tone. And I mean, if I tap the box of the guitar now, it gives me a nice tone as well. But yeah, it is. I think it's a bit of a dark art, to be perfectly honest with you.
It has to be, because like the biggest variable there is the wood.
Yeah.
So you could have the same dimensions, the same everything. Every time it'll be different because that wood is always going to be different.
Yes.
So you got to test along the way. It makes sense.
Yeah. No,
I don't know if you remember on a previous one we had Aaron Lucas from Dark Cypress Hardwoods, and he had these ancient bogwoods that he was using, and he had lots of technical details on all the woods so they've been measured to know everything you could possibly know about the wood to try and anticipate how it might sound. And I found it fascinating that he, with his experience, could look at just charts and numbers and anticipate what would work and what wouldn't work as a tone would for the sounds.
Yeah.
Well, by that logic, you would think that you could do some amount of like physical modeling in like a computer to kind of tell you what it's going to sound like. But even with that, I think that the variable is wood. Even if you know the wood, I don't know if you can actually predict it like that. It just doesn't make sense.
I can see a future video of yours of an AI built acoustic guitar where it's selected, maybe not.
No, but I mean, I don't know. I understand that, and I there must be something in it because there are different guitars that sound very different. But for example, what if you were to build it with a carbon fiber, a thin carbon fiber top that would vibrate? I mean, could you tell the difference? I wonder. I mean, I don't know. I doubt that you probably could. I'm going to get loads of comments on that, but
yeah. So I mentioned him before. The guy that builds hemp acoustics, I can't remember his name. Canna Guitars. He uses tops that are, I don't know what the material is. It's some kind of synthetic material, but because it's synthetic, he's able to go thinner than what you can with wood. And because you're going thinner, and he laminates it, so it's a laminated top. He's able to go thinner, which means you're going to get more resonance. It's going to vibrate more, but it's also stronger than wood.
Yeah.
So you can go thin for the resonance, but it's also way stronger.
Yeah. I mean, I think that would have the thickness of the wood. I would suspect has more impact on the sound than the type of wood itself, especially when you're talking of hardwoods, which is why I'm sort of, I'm testing the water, if you like, with this soprano top, because I think because it is a hardwood, it is going to give a nice tone, but we'll see. Yeah.
That brings to memory, like I remember decades and decades ago when I was like a teenager, I was reading an article about like the battle between like Taylor Guitars and Martin, right? They wanted the market share of the market. And one of the tricks that I can't remember which company did this, maybe it was Martin. One of the things that Martin did to gain foothold in the market was to make thinner tops because it was a perceived loudness.
Right.
So when people played them side by side, they would get, oh, the Martin's louder. And to get that loudness, they actually made the tops thinner. I don't know if that was like true or not. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a couple of acoustic guitars here, and one's a really cheap thing from Gear for Music, and that sounds quite tinny compared to a Guild acoustic I've got, which is a much deeper tone, and the top is thicker on the cheaper guitar. That's the thing.
I mean, I've never built one. I definitely feel from talking to acoustic builders that there's a lot more skill involved than building an electric guitar and getting these things right. But clearly, you can just still get budget guitars that play well that are acoustic.
Yeah.
So there is there is an element of it which is quite basic and probably not that skillful. But then I don't play enough classical acoustic guitars to notice the massive difference that probably exists between a really well-built one and a lesser well-built one, and that difference probably isn't there with electric guitars as much.
No, to be honest with you, Daniel, the reason why I started building them like this, in this style, was because it's so much lighter than a conventional guitar, and it's more comfortable for me to play, to be honest with you. I mean, I play bass like you do, and I've got a Fender jazz bass or precision bass, I think it is, whatever it is. It's really heavy. I mean, after about an hour of playing, I've got a sore shoulder. But my bass guitar that is hollow, and I'll just get it a minute. Hold
on. Hello, everyone in the chat. Thank you for your comments. I don't know if you saw, Mark. Sam just mentioned Nomex is the material.
Yeah, I think it's like a honeycomb material. It's really thin.
Yeah. This is the one that I ripped Scott off because this is Scott's design. If you've ever seen it.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, with this one, this for top part of the guitar is solid, but everything else is hollow. And yeah, I get a bit of a sound from it, but the main reason for doing this is it's lightweight. It's really nice. It does give me a bit of neck dive. You can't help that, unfortunately. But if you're playing a guitar for a long while, it's really nice just to play. So the point about the technique of these things, rather than sawing a big block of wood, you're bending the ribs, and that's not really difficult. I'll be honest with you. Just once you've got if you've got a bending iron, and I've just made mine out of a piece of metal tubing with a light bulb in it, it gets to about 80 or 90 degrees centigrade. So it's not really hot, but it's hot enough to bend the wood. And it's just a question then of having a former that you've made that you can strap it into to let it cool off. Dead easy.
A few people in the comments, Dave, saying how much they like that bass. One of them is Scott. So I guess the question I've got then is, I wanted to ask you more about what it's like going from acoustic to electric. Sorry, electric building to acoustic building. And in my head, I was thinking about those sort of stages. Lots of people that are first time building electric guitars, or even a few times building them, are quite scared of making a neck because it seems intimidating. But often they find it isn't once they've done one.
Yeah.
And it sounds a bit like that's what you're saying with the acoustic. Because I don't have a desire to build one, but the thing that I always imagine would be the hard element is trying to get one that actually sounds good, that isn't just a box that's not resonating well, that isn't projecting well. but maybe it's not as mystical as it seems.
I suspected it isn't as mystical as you say, and I suspect as long as you follow some basic rules, and that is this one about allowing the top to vibrate as much as it can, then I think you've probably got a reasonable tone. I'm saying that it will be on the video when I've finished it, so you will all be able to see whether I'm right or when I'm wrong. But yeah, that's the way I'm going for it. And interesting with the classical acoustic guitar, when the fretboard comes over the top of the body, it's not going to be touching the body. It's going to be free. So I'm going to have it above the body, which
it's like an arch top. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, I mean, when you think of like violins and stuff, they do that, don't they? They come over, they don't touch the body. Somebody must have fathomed out that, that's going to cause problems if you stop that top vibrating. Yeah, somebody bend sides with clothes iron. Yeah, that's a good trick.
I mean, I love seeing people use everyday objects in different ways like that. Your heating. Yeah. Do you know what I saw that I thought was very cool as a Instagram reel? Whether it's practical or not, I don't know. But have you seen those little speakers you can get, like Bluetooth speakers that you click on your shower screen, and it sort of vibrates the shower screen so you can hear the music while you're in the shower? Someone was taking one of them around there. Maybe it was a shop, maybe it was their own collection, and putting on their acoustic guitars and playing it to hear the difference of the same song on the different guitars.
Oh, I think that's clever.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's a little transducer, and basically it kind of vibrates any source, and it turns anything to a speaker. But just on that same note, Daniel, I saw someone take one of those little transducers and use that as sort of a sustainer. Because so you're able to, like, if you can route, basically that's all a sustainer is. You're just routing your own signal back into itself, and it creates this loop. But yeah, someone was able to actually make a sustainer out of one of those little transducers, which is kind of cool.
Excellent.
Oh, I've just seen Owen's in the.
Oh, hi, Owen.
Sorry, Owen. Have you been waiting long?
Only about 15 minutes.
I didn't assume anyone else was coming, so I didn't even look. And I saw you in the chat, so I thought you were there. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's good to be on.
Well, welcome. I don't know if anyone missed that comment, but Owen was suggesting using straightening irons, curling tongs.
Yeah, no, this is an interesting thing because I wanted to buy one of the proper curling irons that they sell, like in Stumac ones and the whole lot. And I went onto Amazon, and there was review after review of ones out there that were like €200 and crap. So it seems to be a real minefield to pick up something that isn't going to kill you, because a lot of them aren't even earthed, and you're putting wet wood onto this electrical element that's heating things. So has the potential to go really wrong, right? But I was looking in some luthier forums, and some lads are saying, if you're just bending, maybe not a whole acoustic guitar, but if you're bending a veneer for a headstock or something like that, just wetting the wood and a curling tongs clamped into your bench vise is sufficient to do it. Good
idea. I'll be honest, I got my idea from a classical guitar builder. I had found him on the internet, and he was bending this wood literally with this little bit of metal tubing with a light bulb in it, and he was getting amazing results. And I thought, it's just what I want. I mean, that's the idea. So it's just a question of finding on eBay a temperature controller, which monitors the temperature, and a decent sort of fitting for the lamp that wouldn't melt when it got hot. And I used an old leg from a table support as the hollow piece of metal, and it works a treat.
Nice. I got my bending iron. I think I bought mine, Owen, on Amazon or eBay. I bought one of the cheapest ones you can get, right? But it had like a digital readout for the control. And it was it's pretty tall. It's about that big. So you can get an entire acoustic side if you wanted to. Yeah. And I used it for some repairs. It was rock solid. No complaints.
Great.
I paid like $60 for it or something, I think.
That's great value. That's really good.
I mean, I looked as well, and they were really expensive. And I don't pay that money for something to bend a bit of wood.
So that's where you had your light bulb moment, right?
Oh, very good. Yeah. Hey, the problem was though getting a bulb, because you know I needed an old incandescent bulb, not one of the new ones. So they'd be no good.
Oh yeah. I'm going to just quickly put my arts hat on from when I used to work in galleries a lot. There's an artist called Dan Flavin, very famous in the 60s for making artworks with fluorescent tubing. So famous for that, very influential, but also a massive thing that people collect. People collect his artwork. It's in loads of museums around the world. But he uses old fluorescent tubes, which don't exist anymore. So the Dan Flavin estate now own a factory that builds fluorescent tubes just for his artwork.
Oh, wow.
To keep it going, so he can keep it exhibiting. Because otherwise, his artwork is now defunct. There's no way to.
No, absolutely.
Without that.
Gosh, yeah. Changing technology.
It's like I've heard people speculating this idea of tube amps, that the tubes that we have in amps, they really only exist maybe for a boomer generation these days, who really has tube amps anymore. So will there be a point when they sort of die out, become super expensive? Because
and a lot of the really sought after tubes, and Mark probably knows more about this than me, but a lot of the really, really like high end ones, I think some of those were made like in the UK, in Ukraine and in Russia. So it's hard to get that stuff now, right?
Yeah, that would make sense.
That's what I'd heard that as well. But yeah. No, I mean, it's all the rage, isn't it, though, tube amps these days?
Yeah, I don't know. I love the idea of a tube amp, and I love those little tiny Eddie Van Halen 5150 lunchbox heads. I think they're really cool. But if somebody said to me tomorrow, hey, do you want to go gigging and bring something that weighs 80 kilograms and gives you more or less the same sound as something that weighs 2 kilograms, I'd be like, I'm all right, lads. I'm fine. Maybe if I was 20 and I didn't mind schlepping big heavy amps up to venues, but yeah, these days, no, I'm lazy.
No.
Yeah, I switched playing live to just going for a DI and not having an amp at all, because I had this old PV amp which weighed, I don't know how much it was, 30 kilograms or something. It was ridiculous. It must be more than that. It needed 2 people to move it around, and it just became such a pain. And it wasn't even that good. I sort of bought it off a friend and never bought a different amp, and yeah, it was just such a pain.
So you just DI'd into the PA, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I noticed whenever I played live at almost every place I played, the sound engineer would take a DI of my signal before it went into the amp, which they then put through the house speakers.
Right.
So then my amp would really only be for stage sound. And although most places I played were small enough that is a lot of the sound people would hear, some places you wouldn't hear that in the audience. You just hear the main PA anyway. Whereas the guitars are mic'd up and going through that. So it just seemed like, why have I got that? So I had a Sans Amp DI box where I could control a lot of EQ on it, and that went into the DI box that the sound engineer then took out.
Yeah. Dave, on your light bulb bending creation, sounds like there could be a cool little instructional video for other people to make their own there. A bit of energy.
Well, there is one. It's buried somewhere. I'll have to find it and put a link up on Instagram. Yeah, it's definitely there. Yeah.
Great.
I'll be honest with you. It's one of those things I was slightly nervous about, because as you pointed out, you've got to know what you're doing when you're putting something together, what you're going to be making it wet. So my instructional video is saying, well, these are the components I've got, these are the bits of it, and this is roughly how I put it together. But for goodness sake, if you're going to do this, make sure you know what you're doing.
Wear rubber shoes.
Yeah. And the worst thing, and I probably should say that, is I've got an old soldering iron, which I have got a metal tube strapped to, very small. So when I want to do a really tight bend, like on oopsie daisy on there, that sort of binding on the top there. You can see it. Oopsie daisy. Yeah, like that. I use my soldering iron. The problem with that is that it gets really hot, and I managed to burn the skin off both my wrists doing that by accidentally knocking it. So again, steer clear.
But tell me anybody who's got a soldering iron that hasn't burned themselves at some point. It's a rite of passage.
Dear, I don't know.
So Dave, on the acoustic build, are you putting a piezo pickup in there?
I'm not on the classical one.
Okay.
I do like the piezo pickups, and there's a gentleman who watches my video called Rick, who used to work for one of them sort of electronic companies, and for the life of me I can't remember which one. And for my travel guitars, I built this little preamp that I used for quite a number of years, and I basically put it together based on something I saw on the internet, and fiddled around till I got a nice tone. And he said, Dave, there's a lot of problems with your thing. I'll design a PCB for you. So he did. And so I've actually built it into this one, and it sounds really good because it's got its dual amplifier. So there's one side for the electric, one side for the piezo. So this tone control here controls the electric, and this one is the piezo. So I can actually mix the two, and that is really good because this pickup is the pickup is about there because it's hidden in the body, which is why I needed an amplifier. So that's giving you sort of a neck pickup sound, quite a deep, rich sound. And the piezo is give you a more stringy sound, if you know what I mean. So when you mix the two together, you get a really nice tone. So I smashing that is. And it cost, I think it cost $5, something like that, to get 5 of these PCBs made. Amazing.
That's great.
Yeah. Incredible.
I think that's the only time that my ears like piezo pickups, because by themselves, I can't stand them. I think they're a little too brittle. But if you can mix magnetic with the piezo pickups, then it sounds really good.
You're right. They are very brittle sounding, aren't they? You can always hear when somebody's playing piezo pickup. It's not right. But as you say, when you blend it in, you can knock off some of those top tones, and it sounds really nice. Yeah, that's good. Interesting. I was watching. Is it Paul Davids? I never know how you pronounce his name. He was showing a plate. A company's come up with a Fender Stratocaster plate with pickups and electronics in, and this thing will model any guitar. So as he was saying, it will model a Les Paul, or a model a 336 or something like that. And he demoed it, and it sounded really good. But at the end, he said, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to make a Strat sound like a Les Paul? Because at the end of the day, if you like a Les Paul, you enjoy playing a Les Paul, don't you? So I think you can go a little bit too far. It was very clever. I must say, it was very clever.
Paul was down with a friend of mine actually last week down in Italy. He was down at Bacci Guitars. So Bruno Bacci builds these baritone electric guitars where they are a full baritone, and then he builds an electric guitar where it has a second pickup on the lower 3 strings with a second output, so that you can run that through different effects or bass amps or bass pedals or pitch shifters. And he's just built a new factory, so he's gone from working out of what is essentially a converted garage into an actual factory with spray booths and multiple CNCs and multiple band saws and thicknessers and the whole lot. But he was having an opening party, and that guy Paul Davids was at it, and I think there's an endorsement coming where he's after picking up one of those guitars, but one of the guitars with the blending system. So interesting that he was talking about blending on that, and then he's going off and picking up another blending guitar from Bruno.
Yeah, I'll be looking out for that. That's amazing. He's doing really well then to get a factory like that.
He's doing okay. Yeah. So Bruno is living in a town called he's very close to he's just north of Pisa. Sorry. So he's up in the mountains, and where he lives is where the author of the Pinocchio books lived as well, at the same town. And the house he lives in was previously owned by Puccini, who wrote some operas and stuff. But because of the Pinocchio hookup, I think there was a deal he was talking about with Disney to make a series of guitars based on Pinocchio. So that may have helped. And also he made that woodworm guitar I spoke about previously, the Michael Lee signature. And those things are amazing to play, but they're also amazingly priced. They're like $8,000 a pop. So they probably helped to pay for the factory too. But it's really great to see him doing well, because like in the UK now, Anderton's stock all his stuff, and he's got a couple of different companies around Europe stocking his stuff as well, and he was exhibiting at NAMM. So it really is, for anybody who's looking to get into guitar building, it's a really inspirational story of going from making a bespoke model and doing what you can do volume wise in your converter garage to really scaling. So he's done it quite well.
Amazing. I feel like if we were doing our long interviews again, he'd be someone to get on.
If we could get him on, it would be great. Yeah, he's so damn busy. But actually, on the piezo and blending with a humbucker thing that Mark said as well, there's a guy on YouTube. He's kind of like all of us. He's kind of just making guitars on the side, orbital guitars. I don't know if you've seen that guy.
Yeah.
But he just published a video that's about an hour and a half long, where he makes a guitar for himself to his own spec, and he's done just that. So piezo bridge and a couple of he's got a Fishman Fluence humbucker in the bridge and 2 single coils. And when you hear the piezo, it's exactly what you guys said. It's really hollow. It's that high end. There's no substance to it.
Is he amplifying it at all?
Yeah, and then the second he puts it into a blend with one of the magnetic pickups, it's beautiful. It really works. So I agree, Mark, wholeheartedly. It makes a lot more sense to do it that way. I think both on their own are okay, but when you put them together, there's a bit of magic happens, which is nice.
So I can't remember what I thought of it, but I had in a guitar I was building, I had the Graphtec Ghost Tech bridges, ghost bridges. So it's a strap bridge. Each saddle is its own individual piezo, and it goes into a board which is a preamp that powers that piezo, but also has a blend in it for the magnetic pickups to go into. So you can have either or. I don't remember it sounding too bad on its own at all. And I wonder if that's because it had the 6 different pickups for the different that made something about the sound fuller.
Do you think that they were like routed individually and maybe EQ'd differently on that board?
No, they definitely.
Okay.
So maybe it was the preamp that made it sound good. Because they all went. They definitely. They're definitely all individual piezo pickups, but they all go into the same bus that then goes into the board.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it was just the quality of the preamp that was changing it.
Interesting. I saw some crazy YouTube video, and I'm going to totally steal this idea, by the way, where some guy takes one of those like new age quartz crystals, the healing crystals, and he puts it on his guitar and he uses it like a piezo pickup, right? Just an everyday like new age hippie crystal, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. The quartz crystal. And so basically the way it works is the crystal has 2 opposing sides, right? You need to have a crystal, they're all faceted, but you have 2 opposing sides. You need to use some kind of glue that's conductive, and you got to ground the whole thing with your 2 wires, right? But if you can do that and you can put it really close to the bridge of your guitar, you can make any quartz crystal into a piezo pickup. Right. I thought it was fascinating. His YouTube video was terrible, which is why I'm going to steal his idea. I'll probably do it myself. Yeah.
Are there tone crystals then?
There has to be tone crystals. The crystal's going to call to you. The crystal chooses you, right?
Your birth crystal.
Right.
I tell you, the thing with a piezo pickup is you have got to squash it. You really got to squash it, because if you don't squash it, you won't get the full range. And when I built this thing here, you know, that the piezo under there is being squashed quite a lot, and it makes such a difference.
Oh, you mean that? Sorry, for a minute I thought you were talking about the EQ squashing it down, but you mean physically?
No, I mean physically.
Tension, yeah.
Pressure on it all the time, because it is the pressure that's giving, you know, it's vibrating that that crystal that gives it the electric thing. Yeah. So there you go.
Back to crystals. This is great.
So what I want everyone watching to do is look up their birth crystal and leave it in the comments so we know who we've got watching. And yeah, I don't know. I won't ask if everyone.
Because like if you have a digital watch, it probably has a quartz crystal in it, and they're hyper accurate. They put out a precise frequency, and a lot of circuitry relies on them. So I'm not surprised about the pickup idea, but I'm absolutely intrigued by it, and I can't wait to see you make a video, because I think it's going to be it's going to be weird enough that people will look at it and go, I have never expected that to work. That's amazing.
I mean, you can take 2 quartz crystals, right, and go into a dark room, and if you bang them together, you'll see the electricity. Like, just take 2 crystals and hit them, and there's some kind of, like, I don't know how they produce electricity, but they do. It's magic, I guess.
You're gonna have to put that in the video.
Yeah. Part of the music that you play at the end has got to have the visual of the. Well, thank you everyone for being here, and anyone that's watching, thank you for watching. Don't forget, your support would be brilliant through a like, a subscribe, or a comment like that, or sharing it with some other people would be excellent. Next week, Ray from Tasmania Guitars is on with us, and hopefully talking a bit about what he's been up to, but also a bit about design and sort of what's out there when people use your designs and steal your designs. Yeah. Because unfortunately, he's had an unfortunate experience with someone recently, which I'm sure he'll tell us more about next week. Fantastic.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Oh, if anyone's in the UK, I will, and you're around, it's the Brighton Guitar Show on Saturday.
I was trying to go over for it, but I couldn't make it work. Yeah, I couldn't make the flights work, but I was trying to get over for it.
Oh, that would have been cool. Oh, well, next time. It's a lovely show. It's a good show. All right.
She'll have to try one day.
Adding
you take care, anybody. Thanks very much.
See you.
See you guys.